every decision we make branches us forwards. One small choice, a yes instead of a no, a text sent instead of one left alone, can subtly but permanently shift the direction of our lives. And if we're not aware of what's guiding those choices, we can wake up years later somewhere we never meant to be. If you're new here, welcome to In the Third Person. It's my channel where I talk about emotional health, psychology, and I use my own philosophy to change the way we think and our relationship with alcohol. Life isn't exactly linear. I believe it's more accurate to describe it as fractal. Each decision is like a new limb on a tree, a fork in the road that leads to another and another. And the further you travel, the harder it is to see how a single moment can shape that journey. Our path is being carved one seemingly ordinary choice at a time. What we say yes to, what we say no to, what we tolerate, what we believe is true. And that last one, what we believe is true, it might be the most dangerous of all, because that's where apophenia comes in. I discovered apophenia a few years ago, but it's only really in sobriety that I've made the connection to how this way of thinking can get distorted when we drink. It's the name for an interesting phenomenon in the way we think. It describes the brain's natural tendency to see meaning, to see patterns in randomness. It's a fundamental feature of how we make sense of the world. Pattern recognition is crucial to our understanding of the nature of things, and it sparks the creative part of our minds. We can look at clouds and see faces. We hear a song at just the right moment and we think it's a sign. We connect events that may or may not have anything to do with each other, and we can build stories around that stuff. And that's not always a bad thing. Apophenia is a part of imagination and intuition and creativity. Sometimes those connections we make, that intuition can guide us to better things, to meet the right people, to create things from seemingly mismatched beginnings into something new and beautiful. So it can be a force for good, but if taken too far, it's also the source of superstition, of paranoia and delusion. It's the mechanism behind conspiracy theories or seeing patterns where, in truth, there's only coincidences. And here's the thing, when our brains are off balance, stressed or chemically altered, apophenia can go into overdrive and it can really start to confuse things. Now, it can be the very thing that, with the promise of hope and intrigue, can actually lead us down a merry path to who knows where. Alcohol disrupts our thinking. That's not new information. But it doesn't just make us like sloppy or impulsive. It can warp the way that we perceive meaning, making things feel more significant than they actually are, making a person seem more attractive, making a bad idea seem like a good one, making the things we say and the things we hear feel maybe more poignant than they really are. So it lowers the barriers that help us critically evaluate what's true and what's imagined. Like, we might think someone's upset with us when they're not. We might convince ourselves we're in love. We might feel deeply connected to somebody's words that we would very likely dismiss if we had a clear head. So put simply, alcohol intensifies apophenia. Now, our minds are basically meaning-making machines, but when under the influence, this happens with no filter. So if we're using alcohol regularly, those false patterns can start shaping the whole story of our lives. We start making like real life decisions based on imagined truths, patterns that aren't really there, beliefs that may feel real but are being kind of amplified without our conscious awareness. And that's when we can slowly, almost imperceptibly, start to veer off course. So have you ever felt like you keep getting lost in your own life? No matter how much effort you put in, things just still feel off. So that's what happens when the internal compass gets jammed. When your choices are being guided by distortions or false meanings, old beliefs, emotional shortcuts, you end up somewhere you didn't actually plan to go. You keep making decisions that don't serve you, and you can't really explain why. But here's the part that changed my life, and it might well change yours. All it takes is one clear decision to shift the entire story. When I stopped drinking, it wasn't just about not consuming alcohol. It was about removing the fog, or like the barrier between me and true reality. With that fog gone, the patterns that remain feel more real. My decisions start to align more with my actual values and my goals. So you stop kind of chasing illusions, or you realize you are chasing illusions, and you can stop trusting these kind of bad instincts. I can just see more clearly, not just what the next step is, but where that might be leading to. Sobriety isn't about giving something up. It's about reclaiming your ability to choose what it is you want, and it gives you the clarity to know what that actually is. Because once you see how many of your past decisions were shaped by a mind that was under the influence, you'll never want to go back to having to guess at what's true. I chose one thing, just one, and everything else began to realign for the better. So if you want to start making better decisions, seeing positive change in your life, keep on watching in the third person. I'll see you next week.
Hey boy, I'm tired.